And I'm back. I ended up going to the bathroom after all, so I started playing music. I went to the bathroom and I took some Advil because I have tension headaches now at night. Unfortunately, they seem to be chronic, and I think it's because of my job. That was Player Map 4. I don't know if there's an official title for it from Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War for Super Famicom. Never released in America. Everyone was saying for years that would be the next Fire Emblem Echoes game we're getting, but so far, it has been... When did Echoes come out? 2017? It's been 6 years and no sign of a new Echoes game yet. Paper Mario RPG. Yeah. I marked out pretty hard for that. Well, I marked out as hard as I could. You know, I don't get super loud when I do the direct reactions because I'm kind of like... Just waking up, I'm tired, and I'm also just... I don't, like, freak out as much as I used to about video games. So anyway, it's 1:22. We could probably get about 2 hours of Ace Attorney in. I don't know how far we're gonna get because we have two more court days and we have one more investigation day. We're definitely not finishing this tonight. I know that. Turn down that volume. Ooh. Oh, I gotta change the stream title. One moment. Phoenix Wright. Ace Attorney. Trilogy has more viewers than just Phoenix Wright. Very interesting. February 24th. Oh, right. I didn't have the PNG tuber up the entire time. That's my thing now. Yeah, whatever. Just leave it off for tonight. Who cares? February 24th, 9:41 a.m. District Court Defendant Lobby Number 2. So, what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution's just as confused as we are. After all, the victim was Why does it say Lana? The victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time. Oh, because she was showing up. She's rolling up here. And a different suspect was arrested at each of the crime scenes. Lana. Good morning, Mr. Wright. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. Hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So how'd it go? It's as Mr. Wright suspects. The police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, they wouldn't see capital punishment. That's what I mean, Emma. But Lana, don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. Miss Skye. We found trace evidence of a certain person in the police department's evidence room. They belong to Officer Jake Marshall. What kind of trace evidence? Blood-stained fingerprints, to be exact. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? We have to play the cards we're dealt. Isn't that right, Miss Skye? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. February 24th, 10 a.m., District Court, courtroom number 9. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is... I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. Did I get to run any races on silence? No. Deathwind showed up once and I didn't get it. You actually showed up while I was still doing the training. So technically, you heard every race I was in. If I unlock it off... Well, I mean, there's no point, because if I unlock it, I can only do it in practice mode. But I will stream it again. I will stream that again, especially since it seems like there's cups that haven't unlocked yet. So there's courses that just aren't available. I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time. But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just disappeared. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Wow, this is one messed up trial. One of my duties as a prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In so doing, I believe a way in which we shall proceed will reveal itself. Now that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart. He sounds so on top of things, even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admirable trait? Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the day to the stand. For its first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of the murder that occurred at the police department. The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer? Wright has that in common with Edgeworth, Emma. Uh-oh, things are getting wild from the get-go. Bike beacons. Will the witness please state his name and occupation? Yes, sir. I'm Officer Mike Meekins, sir. My occupation is, that would be the murderer, sir. So you're telling us you're a professional killer? Sir, it was me, sir. I'm the one who did it. I'll never kill anyone again, sir. You've got to believe me, sir. Actually, what we'd like to hear from you is, sir, I'm what you would call part of the younger generation, sir. A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend. Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir, help me, sir. Officer Meekins. Yes, sir. Give us your report of the crime. Consider that an order. Yes, sir, as you wish. After all, I am part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir. Can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm. Crime report, sir. Although it's not my normal duty, I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day. I spotted a suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life, and then I did it. After that, I passed out until another officer smacked me awake. So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you? Do unto others before they do unto you. That's the Meekins family motto, sir. I see. Then you fainted and a colleague helped you regain consciousness. Yes, sir. He knocked me upside the head, sir. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. What I need here is more info to work with. Assigned to guard the evidence room that day. Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not? Yes, sir. I'm in charge of hiring new recruits, sir. Yikes, now there's a scary thought. Evidence transferal was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed. I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir. The Blue Badger? Yes, sir, the lovely police mascot created by the Chief of Detectives, sir. I was to ensure it wasn't broken during the transferal process. That was my sole mission for the day, sir. I see. Sounds like a very, important mission. After the award ceremony finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room. Tell us, what did you see when you got there? Got a sus man on the security screen. In order to enter into that evidence room, you need an ID card, am I correct? I sound very far from the microphone right now, probably, because I'm grabbing my drink. Precisely, sir. I have one here right around my neck, sir. So then, your ID number should be listed here, right? There it is! I found it! This is the one right here. Could you please read us the number? Yes, sir. It's 4989. It's 4989596. That's my number, sir. Huh. I see. But that number is shown as being used twice. Please explain, witness. It's no real mystery, sir. First time was when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room, and the second time was when I went to go get him after everything settled down. I see, so it was during that second time when... Yes, sir, that's when the man spotted the man on security camera. ID records updated. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. So you were attacked. Can you please tell us exactly what happened to you? It was a knife, sir. A knife! Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you. What happened then? Well, with me charging him in on him like that, he looks as surprised as I was. You weren't exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into. That's when I reacted, sir. I swung my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him. That's how I got this gash on my hand. Maybe if you just kept your cool, your hand wouldn't be... When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the man by his collar. What exactly do you mean when you say you did it? I know I don't look the type, but I'm really into kung fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him. You took his knife? I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. I made sure to close my eyes like a man. I see. He really must have been desperate. The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of my blood, and then the next thing I knew... Yes? He punched me right in my face, sir! About what time did you regain consciousness? No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious. Oh, right. According to the report from the officer that woke the witness, it was about 5:30. He hit me right in the head, too. I woke up crying tears of pain. That's nice, sir. I mean, it's nice that you recovered, that is. When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir. Your mission? Yes, sir. The Blue Badger, sir. I returned him to the entrance before things got out of hand. Well, we can all rest easy now. I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened. Yes, Your Honor, only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point. Yes, Officer Meekins? With regard to that, sir, take a look at this. It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning, sir. The Chief delivered it? The Chief's package came... It muted me. Damn it. It muted me by accident. The Chief's package came in the mail. I had to say it twice so that people heard it. What is that, a videotape? Yes, sir. That's absolutely right, sir. A videotape, sir. It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room. Hold on. It contains footage from the security... Alright. So I'll make sure everything's okay. I accidentally slammed some buttons on my keyboard here. What? But I specifically asked if there was such a tape. I was told it had been mistakenly erased. That's quite a mistake. I just do what I'm told, sir. It's the only thing I'm really good at. Looks like communication with the police department's as good as ever. Well then, let's have a look. Show us that video of you murdering the victim. Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me. A video of a real murder. Just what are we getting ourselves into? Get used to hearing this music tonight. We're gonna be watching this quite a bit. Oh my god, the video quality of this seems way lower than on the DS. I remember that walking animation there being... Yeah, everything seems slower. I remember this being a lot smoother looking on the DS. Also, why is the Blue Badger music playing, but you can't hear any of the sounds that the other people are making? Edgeworth. Well, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us? What the hell is that wriggling piece of plywood? Sir, that's the pride and joy of the entire Criminal Affairs Department, sir. How would Edgeworth not know what that is? Wasn't it out when he received his reward? When he went to the police department? It's the Blue Badger, sir. Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly? Yes, well, anyway, this tape seems to prove that the witness did indeed encounter, someone. He only remembers samurai costumes. In the evidence room and some Damn it! Your Honor, instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that alright with you, Officer Meekins? Yes, sir. As you wish, sir. Mystery Man. So they confirmed, Capcom just confirmed that, Apollo Justice Trilogy will be at the TGS presentation, and I'm hoping there's some quality of life features, specifically the ones that are in the Great Ace Attorney, because not having a log is not good for this game. If I accidentally skip a line, then it's like, it's gone. We're not going to get to read it. Oh, also, excuse me. We may get a TGS skit. Maybe. Did we get one for Great Ace Attorney? I don't remember. Yeah, whatever. Not important. His face can't be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that that other person was Detective Goodman, sir. I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it. What's this about a fingerprint? Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to. Intriguing. That would mean the victim at the crime scene would have to have been Detective Goodman. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. I don't know where this cross-examination will lead, but everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. Tell me, were you able to get a good look at him? At the face of the man who attacked you with the knife? Sir, if you must label people having seen or not seen the man's face, I believe I would be classified as the latter? The latter, but you were standing right in front of him, weren't you not? Were you not? More to the point, you're the person who fought him, aren't you? Oh, yes, sir, but I didn't get a clear look at his face, sir. I'm not the kind of guy who looks directly at people when talking to them, you see. Yeah, that's a good trait for a police officer. Hey, it's called being autistic. Come on. I had that same problem. I hate staring people in the eyes. Still, I'm sure it was him. I'd bet on my badge. On it. My blue badger. But you don't know that for sure, do you? You never actually saw Detective Goodman's face. Well, I suppose you might say that. That is, if you must label people of having seen or not seen it. Since his face can't be identified in the video, only you could verify it. Why is everyone looking at me? If I had to label your stares as disturbing or... Meekins. I shouldn't have talked over that. That noise is really good. Having been shown a questionable video at best, we're not in the best of moods. Now please be more certain when you testify. Yes, sir. You claim the man who brandished a knife on you was Bruce Goodman. Tell us why you are positive it was him. Fingerprints. About these lockers, is there no other way to open them? No, sir. I myself tried all kinds of methods in the past. They only respond to registered fingerprints, sir. Wonder what kind of methods he's tried. If the man opened the locker's lock, which only responds to registered fingerprints, then it must belong to the person who the locker was assigned to. Exactly my point, sir. And this too. How do you know that information? I've heard rumors, sir, from people in the know, sir. People in the know? The workers in the department cafeteria, sir. They keep me informed. They also listen to my romantic troubles, sir. For the record, the open locker did indeed belong to Detective Goodman. I verified this information through a more reliable source. So the victim opened the locker with his own fingerprint. However, the most important detail is not shown in this video. The man's face. Sir! If I may say something, sir. Please do. After all, you are the one being examined. I don't understand why the man's face is so important in this case, sir. I mean, it was his hand that opened the fingerprint lock, and it was his hand that tried to thrust his knife into my body, sir. My unsettled state can testify enough to this, sir. Yes, you have a point. The footage doesn't lie. That is, unless the defense can find a problem with it. Mr. Wright, let's check the court record again. Is there a problem with the security video? Yeah, of course there is. Regarding the video contained on this tape, there is one thing in particular that seems strange. Strange? This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman. What? This video contains such a contradiction? Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal. Yes, Mr. Edgeworth? I propose we have the defense point out this alleged contradiction in the video. You would want me to point it out. Very well, proposal accepted. Let us further inspect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Mr. Wright, please show us this contradiction you speak of. I have to point out a problem in the video. This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You could do it, Mr. Wright. It's set up so you could fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing. Please don't play it too many times. I can't stand watching this video. How did this guy ever become a police officer? Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man was not Detective Goodman? Look how the music just keeps playing. So he walks in. It's really weird how, like, choppy it is again. So wait. He opens it and then the glove immediately falls. I thought maybe that might be it. Wait. Oh, wait. I think I know. The locker's already open. The thing that's strange about the video has got to be this. Officer Meekins. Sir, do you mean me, sir? As I understand it, the locker apparatus works like this. Why is it playing the Blue Badger music still? When you grab the handle, a sensor reads your fingerprint. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released. According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir. If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. Yeah, Gumshoe has a picture of his character from the later games. There's a lot of references here. The bug that you use in one of the future cases is here. The little yellow thing that can be used to find security bugs. When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker, let's rewind to a little earlier. Here, notice the light? What's this? It's already lit. Precisely my point, Your Honor. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle. Order! Order! What's the meaning of this? It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When a door is shut, a sensor is triggered, and the locker is automatically locked. Oh, I know, it must have been broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this. That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction. Oh well, it just goes to show novices should keep their mouths shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation? Me, Your Honor? Yes, why wasn't the locker locked? Me, Your Honor? Yes, well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator? Yeah, ask the 16-year-old what she thinks. Huh? Oh, maybe something like jam the system sensor? Something jam the sensor? Say, there is something that seems out of place in this video. Something else. Yeah, I thought so too. There's gotta be another clue somewhere in this footage. Very well, let's inspect the video once more. The locker wasn't locked. Mr. Wright, please put... It's moving too fast because of the way that it's set up. Whoops. The thing that's strange about the video would have to be, this? Hold on a second, I need to use my eye drops. Well, I don't get it. Would you mind if I borrowed your eye medicine? Don't look at me with those bleary eyes. Before your eyes get too teary, perhaps you should think this through again, hmm? Very well, let's inspect the video once more. I gotta punishes you for messing it up. Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. Now we don't get any music. What's this? Something white fell out of the locker. But sir, it's been my experience with that things fall out when doors are opened. I often fall out We can't be sure that item was completely inside the locker to begin with. I love that it just makes Phoenix look like an asshole who's cutting him off. What do you mean? The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted, say, between the sensor and the door? Inserted? Yes, inserted. I guess I remember not to mash A to the text boxes. The white thing inside the locker. It wasn't inside the locker. It was stuck between the door and the sensor. Oh, I understand now, sir. It's just like my tie. 2 out of 3 times it gets stuck in the door when I get on my patrol vehicle, sir. Instead of the door closing, my tie chokes me. But the object would have to be extremely thin to fit in the door. Not only that, but it would also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator. Sorry, just checking something. Yes, an insulator, but at the crime scene, there just might have been something that fits that description. But sir, by insulator, you don't mean... I think I finally got this figured out. Very well, will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was this insulator that was stuck in the door? I found this near the locker, a thin rubber glove. But we can't be sure that was in the victim's locker. It has a tag that says SL9 Incident. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker. But that isn't the case. The lit lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is this not so, Officer Meekins? Sir. It would appear so, sir. Order, order, order! So are we to believe that that the victim, whom this witness stabbed in the evidence room, was not Detective Goodman? Do not be misled, Your Honor. What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? The defense has merely demonstrated that possibility and nothing more. The victim in this video is indeed Bruce Goodman. The prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins, please testify about this. Sir? Me, sir? I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir. Is this a joke? Very well, begin your testimony. Mystery Man 2. There's one other thing that proves the man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used his card. An ID card record, I see. I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. The ID used at 5:14 is that of the victim. Just before the crime, Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for transferal. Why were there so few people using this room? This particular evidence room is only used for storing certain special cases. Special cases? Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although I guess that doesn't make much of a difference. There were only a few cases up for transferal there, and most were cleared up by noon. Right, I see. Now, let us move on to the cross-examination. So, unlike your earlier testimony, you believe this one to be rock solid, do you? Yes, sir. Solid as stone, sir. If my hand wasn't wrapped in bandages, I'd even give the V for victory sign, sir. Couldn't he just use his right hand for that? Let's hear him out fully. As we've seen, one never knows when they might say what they might say until the very last second. Is that card hanging from your neck one of the ID cards? Yes, sir. This card right next to my cuff, sir. I keep it here so I won't ever forget it. What if someone were to steal it from you, keeping it out in the open like that? Maybe I shouldn't wear it around my neck. Remember when I said 2 out of 3 times my tie gets stuck when I get out of my car? Well, the remaining time it's my ID card that gets stuck. Instead of the door closing, my ID card takes me somewhere. Maybe I should just leave this one alone. At any rate, each police officer only has one ID card. Both the police department and prosecutor's office can attest to this. Please proceed with your testimony. Let it be noted, this is the record the witness referred to. Let me see. Yes, that would be it, Detective Goodman. What's the matter? According to this, Mr. Edgeworth, your name is on here. So what is, Your Honor? Not that prosecutor again. Hey, maybe he's behind all this. Being a prosecutor, you can hide the evidence. Mommy, is that man in blue a murderer? Shh, don't stare at him. You got the wrong color, kid. It would seem the Inquiry Committee will want to speak with you again today. I have nothing to be ashamed of regarding my actions or their consequences. For now, let us continue with the cross-examination. Poor Mr. Edgeworth, it must be so difficult for him. Earlier, I believe you testified that when you asked the man to show you his ID card, he pulled a knife on you. Yes, sir. He didn't show me any ID card, sir. Don't you think that's odd? I mean, if he had his ID card, all he had to do was show it to you. There wouldn't be any reason to draw a knife. Maybe he just panicked? Everything stems from contradictions. Let's point them out. Mr. Wright, what do you think? I'm confused. What? Problem with this ID card testimony is far too obvious. It's not like Edgeworth to miss something like this. You're thinking too hard about it. Come on, let's show them what we've got. I think that's what the lost item report was for. I don't think this is the time to use it. Nope, it is. Wait one moment, Officer Meekins. I'm not good at waiting, sir. I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene. That makes sense. When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card. A lost item report, if only half completed. It's only half completed. but it shows that Detective Goodman had lost something on the day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess, you believe this something to be his ID card, right? I can't say for sure, but there's a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card. Okay. Sorry, I've been feeling off about something, but I feel a lot better now. All of a sudden. Oh, thank God. Order! Order! So now, what does this all mean? It can only mean one thing. It doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card. Order! 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 Does the prosecution have a response? I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo? Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. At 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes? What's he up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also fake. In other words, the security camera does not show the instant of the murder. That is... well, I guess that's right. Is something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well, is it? Well, it seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove. Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth. The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means the murder did not take place at the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime. So the real crime could only take place in one location, the underground parking lot, at the prosecutor's office, the murderer being Miss Lana Skye, the defendant. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness observed the moment the defendant used the murder weapon. Ah! I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning. The activity in the evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman. So, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something or else Lana... What do I do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this mess? Objection! One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of the matter. Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, Your Honor. If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared? I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean... Your Honor, the defense would like to call a request... The defense would like to request a specific witness. Oh, whom do you have in mind? Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply. Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person whom you have testify. What is his or her name? Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? Can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. Feel we should hear what he has to say. Prosecution agrees to the defense's request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. Shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare. Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time? We will, Your Honor. Court is now in recess. 11:32 a.m. There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. Hey, Celine. I haven't figured anything out. Lana, you're the one who knows everything. Emma. You always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How could you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, yes I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run around all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Sorry, Detective. You better be, pal. Hey! I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky. That's okay, so have you brought what I asked? Oh, you mean this, right? My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Can I bother you to bring me the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. The SL9 incident? But Lana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well to read them. Can't believe you, the chief prosecutor, or a witness in that case. Miss Sky was a witness? Files for the Joe Dark killing solved 2 years ago. Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murders. Oh, what? Now that I've brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me? Emma? But why? Why is your name in here? I guess they expect you to read it ahead of time. Perpetrator, Joe Dark, crime, serial murder, sentence, death. Victims, Edward Jones, Edith Kirby, Jeb Bates, Neil Marshall, Rachel Moss, Jason Knight. Trial data. Head prosecutor, Miles Edgeworth, witnesses Lana and Emma Sky. Investigation Task Force, executive investigators, Damon Gant, Lana Sky. Head investigator, Bruce Goodman, investigators, Jake Marshall, Angel Star. Couple of interesting little interesting names popping up in there. What? My name's in there? I don't know, unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SL9 incident, is that... That's the classification number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as... the Joe Dark killings. The Joe Dark... No, Lana. That's over with. No. Emma, wait. She ran away. You know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here. Jake Marshall, Angel Star, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you, you just might be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. Better take a good look at this file. (12:14 p.m.) Courtroom number 9. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. There's the unpardonable witness that I mentioned last time. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you. Wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you could hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? Never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? The desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. The day of the crime. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. Can't say I particularly care for your attitude. Can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute, what do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks in the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Day of the crime. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still even the time dies in there. Hello. It's a good username you got there, Shrek Wazowskis. That's a great username. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. You interred them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual was recorded, tapes would be erased every 6 hours. Every time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing part of my life. This guy's a flair for the This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. They said I was supposed to make... Okay. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There's a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner. Can't say I do. Haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How's this guy avoid being fired? Used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course, back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism. And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism. Sorry, partner. I ain't good with machines. Couldn't even tell you how a bike works. That's quite, incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that, too. At any rate, this doesn't seem relevant to the it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat that Parlo's Von Gold sepia pasta. You mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says. Did you not want to raise this year? Out of ammo, Officer Marshall. That's right, partner, or as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin this crime on, if you plan to pin me on this to this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I better up the ante. Up the ante? Camera, okay. Actually, don't remember what I'm supposed to do here. Okay, I just got a jolt of energy. Looked at something very nice. Room's protected by the 2 security systems anyway. A street side saloon at the time it went down. I just said instant. See, the fact that he says street side saloon, that makes me think it's a cart, which makes me think he was actually eating noodles. This game's very inconsistent with the noodle localization. There's an insolent traveler man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a shot in the dark here. I hate that you can't fast forward this. God, that statement contradicts this evidence. It does? I don't see anything contradictory. Huh? Really? Objection overruled. Try to think before you make accusations, Mr. Wright. Oops, that didn't go so well. I guess we just hit him with his foot, his handprint. Oh, Marshall's fingerprint says right in the title. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know why, but playing this makes me, like, sleepy sometimes. Just reading it is, like, draining me of my energy. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. Also, it's finally gotten cool enough now that I can just keep my ceiling fan on and have the, air conditioner off. So if you listen very closely, you can hear there's very little being picked up here. In fact, hold on. Keep my mouth shut. That's literally with the microphone at max volume. You could hear that, like, light whirring. This gain gets pretty high. Like, I peak on this microphone with my gain set to, like, near 1 or 2. Gain goes from 0 to 10. And 1 or 2 is what you're hearing right now. You're hearing, like, 1.5, maybe 2. When I record auditions, I usually up it to, like, 4 or 5. And then, but also OBS records at a different volume than my auditioning software. Anyway, after all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. Yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene. Blood was wiped away. However, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? Seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprints, or about the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime. Blood-stained. Symphony of the something, whatever it is. Can't remember. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. Murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. Bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know that the murderer was wearing gloves? See? Had nothing to do with it. Witness's explanation appears valid, though there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be any fun without doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something. I could feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. That's because you, how'd you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. It's the locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. Must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever noticing it. So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine. It's no mystery. Please explain. Locker's covered with my fingerprints. Just so happened. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. Chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward with a mere finger. You wanna know why? The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, while the other's a type of murder. He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How did you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There's a bloodstain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found in Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected in that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture now, partner? The picture? The seal of blood. It's in the desert. It's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. Isn't going to get us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Too bad it wasn't me in that video, right, partner? What? When this statement is clearly faulty, Your Honor. I'm sorry, but I can see nothing faulty. Unfortunately, I'll have to penalize you, Mr. Wright. Ugh, must be on the wrong track. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. That video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without ever being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you could show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Oh, I had to do that separately. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Yeah, no shit. Well then, let's have another look at the video. Show us the incriminating evidence on this witness, Officer Marshall. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in this video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out of it. That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Like that he cares that it was exactly 8 words long, yeah. Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order, order! It would seem that only... Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. Not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? These guys are just playing dumb. He really doesn't know, even though we brought it up earlier. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say open that locker? Now prove it. Man's living in the past. Fingerprint sensor. We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. Yeah, why don't you remember this? Well, what kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got one for you, partner. No! Order, order, order! Witness, explain yourself! If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you, this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Ole, please answer the question. That was 9 letters. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can? Have a look at these 4 plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? I always get confused by this one. It's killer and victim. And I keep thinking, oh, killer, obviously, because he's the one who attacked Meekins. It's like, no. Meekins is being suspected of killing Goodman. So Goodman would be the victim. Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. Something about the police officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you could see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. Can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. Can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complain. We had this conversation already. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have anything evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't got anything like that. I could see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Ah, this can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? Looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. Why'd he turn into Alan Rickman there for a second? Hey, EV2. I'll pass on to you something that was told to me when I was just starting out. When you run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics. For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. Gotta embrace that Liv Moss mentality. Shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Marshall would be a fake cowboy who eats Taco Bell. You know he would. He's all about that fourth meal. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open this locker. His locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Is it the coat? I have extra life here. For some reason, you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman and enter the evidence room, though I don't know to what end. Yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat! You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have had to be here now, would we? Now. Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. Alright, seems the time has come. And so have I. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. Planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. I managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was too much blood for such a small donation. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I... Why'd you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card, left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in that door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Marshall. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million person. Type person. Ooh, I need some hydration here. Hold on. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. Where did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and managed to escape New Chambers camera. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go in the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, your bloodied coat and your struggle with Officer Meekins... You bloodied your coat, excuse me. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. And then checked to see that the sleeve wasn't hanging out of it. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me. I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. Can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one's mine. and I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. Witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. Can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? But the case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I could say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's still something that bothers me. Something that went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think is the real reason. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. Cactus juice is delicious. By the way, you can buy cactus juice. It's very sweet. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? Nothing quenchier. He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. And there he is, David Lynch as a serial killer. There's this one fan-made case where a witness says pretty much Neil Marshall as a doctor. Nice. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. And then we crawled on the ground like a baby. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. Sorry, I shouldn't ruin this. It's a serious moment. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened to the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, that mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance, it's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot... Whoa! That means the murder in the prosecutor's office's parking lot was the real one. Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But... There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me this boy's got you on the draw. Seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely uncontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Ah! I rest my case. Seems this trial's reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that this would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Your Honor, wait. Emma? The defense is an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the name of both Sky sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found in Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I'd examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone could save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh, boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, with regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If I ever need to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems to be clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of this blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy more time like I just was right there. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I could use. Question is, which item can prove that something is missing from the floor plans? Forehead. If I'm not mistaken, isn't the Blue Badger? What about that piece of plywood? Yep. The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not there. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? See, but that's too close, because we clearly see that detective, or that marshal was able to walk past it from behind. Yeah, like when we go back, he clearly walks... Oh, he walks in front of it. Never mind. Never mind. I was completely wrong. Sleepy brain's catching up to me. I think that's why I'm tired, because I haven't been sleeping very well lately. I've been sleeping extremely poorly, especially, you know, today. I only got like 4.5 hours before the direct. Thank you to everyone who was there this morning, by the way. I appreciate that. I'm very much looking forward to stuff. And also the PlayStation thing happened. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out February 29th next year. I think this is the same day Persona 3 is coming out. Oh my god. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger... So long as the Blue Badger is dancing there, it would be impossible to place a handprint on this spot in the locker. What? I'm tripping over my words a lot. So that means, just what exactly does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma? On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger into the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would have been impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that means this blood mark was left before the Blue Badger was brought in? His mouth wasn't moving there. No, it wasn't. Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. The big pool of blood. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown in this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murderer portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found in the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did the first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder first took place. There's only one piece of evidence that could show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? Which shows when the first crime took place. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card. Oh! The ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? Never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminal test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have been taking place before Edgeworth entered the room. Let's take a look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 777-7777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777-7777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777-777777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. No. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 777-7777 belongs to someone with the rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'd have gone with 774 for the number. I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we could be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number, and it's not 777-7777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing. About that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana, I became a prosecutor in order to suppress a crime within the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't! I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order! 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 Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. There's like a beep noise in there. Did you hear that? Like a whoop! February 24th. 3:12 p.m. Wright and Company Law Offices. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Yeah, we just read this. I didn't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dark killings. Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me. Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean, what happened to you? It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. What'd you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was the only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes, I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of the year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together when she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Jake Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage, but before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then, what happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I could still see it now. A permanent picture? What did you see in the instant that crime occurred? Dark knocked Mr. Marshall down and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma. You've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago. Must have been 14. That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I want to be able to fight crime with my testimonies, and find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way Lana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something about that bothers me about that crime. I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall, so you weren't able to testify about that. No, I was only asked when I was attacked. About when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence? The prosecutor's evidence wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean. It's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have ever happened. So it's true, even though he may not have known it. Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at the time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in here? Not only that, but he's being chased by a prosecutor? Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course, this happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. Why do you run all the way over to your sister's office? Because the detective offices in the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly, didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. She was the best in the entire force. What? What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective. I better have another talk with her. Seems everything is somehow related to this incident. What was it labeled again? The SL9 incident? Yes, the name of everyone connected to this trial is listed in here. All that's left is to figure out just what role everyone plays in this case. If we search hard enough, I think we'll find our answers. What exactly did or didn't Lana do? I'm not sure I want to know everything. Oops. We owe our entire success in court today to this tape. At first I thought it was a joke, but it turned out to be a goldmine of evidence. I counted a total of 5 clues in it. I also gave the Blue Badger some publicity. Of the negative sort, that is. This jar's pretty fragile. Looks like it's about to break apart. What do you mean about to? It's already broken. I meant again. This piece was found in Detective Goodman's evidence locker. That means this is somehow related to that other incident. Here, see this? Oh, I have a math test coming up next week. I better study. I'm borrowing this desk, okay? 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 2 = 3, 1 + 3 = 4. And that's what they're teaching in high school math. We're in serious trouble. Oh, I tried studying one of those just now. Remember what they were talking about in the trial yesterday? Oh, right, evidence law. So did you learn anything? Well, when I tried reading it, it made my head hurt. Oh. Then when I closed it, it slipped out of my hand and fell on my foot. Oddly enough, I find myself identifying with her on this one. Mia's plant Charlie. I'm taking care of him in Maya's absence. Huh? It looks a little yellow today. Oh, I watered him just now. Mixed in a lot, too. Mixed in what? Well, my very own scientific additive. Well, Charlie, you like it? I told you, he's turning yellow. Yeah, the bellboy's staring right at me. He looks wimpy, but you could tell there's a sharp edge under that facade. That bellboy's going to be someone someday. Wish someone would say that about me. Whoa, what happened there? Fab 24, Detention Center Visitors Room. Lana. Mr. Wright, I keep seeming to causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence? I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul, why should we? But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago, and how the SL9 incident was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office. That's right. Could you fill me in the details, especially about the unusual change of jobs? I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. He seems frozen in place, cowering under this room's oppressive atmosphere. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall could be. That trial, it wasn't really fair, was it? I believe in you, Lana. I believe that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. It couldn't be helped, Emma. At the trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15, there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana. What the witness, Miss Starr, said. About you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. It's true. I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Gant? He was the deputy chief of police back then, but he still worked the crime scenes. Damon Gant. He was everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before the reports can even be filed. Emma really idolizes her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes so you could use that experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was second in command of the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command. That means the investigation lead was Damon Gant, right? Yes, Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office, and the same investigations. They even had the same office. We led a team of our best detectives on the force. Detective Gumshoe, oof. I was actually like, my eyelids were hanging there. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall, and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That was when his final murder took place. When he tried to murder Emma. Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. I almost said Dank. The investigation was in its final stages, and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down, then fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run the scene, Lana. Run to the scene, Lana. It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. 3 bodies. Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. What did he do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her. Can't blame her after all her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved with the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence, huh? I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in that trial was also involved in that incident, just by chance. That case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall. Yes, his actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he's changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gant and I shared. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself. The Chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the Chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder. Attorneys and prosecutors have no business showing evidence outside of court. It's taboo, especially when the interests of both parties are involved. She really means it. Okay. Alright, we're done here. February 24th, Police Station, Criminal Affairs Department. I don't see Detective Gumshoe anywhere. Things seem kind of quiet around here today. You're right, Chief of Detectives seems the same, though. Why don't we go look for some other people to talk to? Right, we could come back here later. That man must be the Chief of Detectives. He's staring at the screen so hard it might shatter. What? Dark case may have been fabricated. That's what I thought all along. Just never bothered to tell anyone. Now there's a guy who cares about his work. That's it! The villain used a time machine! Very clever. That would explain the alibi. The future may not be so far away after all. He's not writing a report, he's writing a novel. Howdy, Bambina. Oh, Mr. Marshall. Never thought things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Que sera. You never know where life will lead you, eh, Bambina? I should have known my luck had run out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must have been his pet cactus. Say, where were you heading? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go into the evidence room today, partner. But Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? Why do prospectors head west? If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was that one. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean that switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's, alright. But in the initial autopsy report, a question was raised. Question. Yeah, I gotta stop real soon. I'm starting to like doze off here. The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there's a good chance that this knife was not the murder weapon. However, in the report that was finally submitted, the possibility had been erased. The facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left scars behind on all of us. Scars of the SL9 incident left behind. I got the looks, but he got the brains. He was one of the best prosecutors around. Had just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together. How old was he, your brother? He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me like that for? That's an honor to have for a prosecutor. Mr. Marshall must have really been close with his brother. The day the SL9 incident took place, so that wasn't the same day as... That's right. It was the day of the evidence transferal. Interesting. It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. Can't believe 2 years have gone by already. I tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty. Ooh. There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. Miss Starr was fired and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? If they did something to him, the commissioners would get suspicious. No, they were careful enough not to be too obvious. They? Who are you talking about? Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Gant and Lana Skye. The investigation lead, Damon Gant, and his second-in-command, Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah. Damon Gant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was a totally different person when she was alive than I rambled there. I was imagining words that weren't in that sentence. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentions Emma said something like that too. Tell me, what happened to my sister? Sorry, Bambina, but her secret is too well guarded. Never found out. On a secret. It all started 2 years ago. So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, partner? It was certainly enlightening. There's one thing for sure, I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get a guilty verdict, but someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damon Gant. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Too bad I won't be around to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Adios, Bambina. Okay, now that that's over, I'm out of energy here. I'm running on empty. I don't like saving in the middle of a section, but we're gonna have to. The upside is that this will be finished in one more stream. No, what am I doing? Save one more time just for safety's sake. Oh boy, I'm sorry for all the pauses there. But yeah, we're close to the end now. We got the rest of this investigation and one more court day left, and then that's the end of the first game. And yeah, it's been fun. I've been enjoying it. Thank you so much for everyone who came by. Thank you everyone who came by this morning for the direct stream. I'm exhausted. And thank you for everyone who stopped by earlier for F-Zero 99. I'm definitely going to stream more of that at some point. But for now, I'll be away tomorrow. This weekend, I'll try to be around. I'm going to try to get some more 14 done because I'm going to let my subscription lapse next month and do other games. So I'm going to try to get some more 14 in while I can. Next week, is next week Theater Rhythm? It might be. No, I think it might be the week after. Then 3 weeks and 3 weeks. Oh no, it might be next week, actually. Theater Rhythm might be next week. I'll have to see. I'm going to still try to get Mega Man Star Force 2 prepped so I could finish that. We have one more stream of that left. We'll finish Ace Attorney. And we'll do more Pokemon Teal Mask. And then, I don't know if I'm going to do the Sonic Frontiers DLC when it comes out, because there's going to be a lot there, apparently. And I missed the last update, so there's a lot to do. But we'll see what happens as we move into October, because it looks like there might be open spots at the beginning of October to do stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for coming, everyone. As always, if you want to watch more streams, you can check out my page and check out the recommended streamers. We got a couple people here, so I'm going to raid someone. Let's see. Not a ton of people streaming. Frostwolf, I haven't raided them in a while. So stick around, say hi to them. Have a great evening. I will see you, hopefully, this weekend and then I'll be gone the next 2 weekends following that. So take care, have a great evening, and remember to live Moss yet again.